Hello and welcome to Asian News Review Extra. This is where we give our personal thoughts on life in Japan and living in the East. Just enjoying a beautiful hot March day. Temperatures seem to be increasing earlier and earlier, bringing cherry blossoms far earlier each year. So taking advantage of the lovely March weather to get outside in the garden and enjoy a bit of sunshine and warmth. Still, there's a bit of a breeze around, so I've got a kind of a thick sweater on to keep me warm. But yeah, really enjoying the early season sunshine. So a question that's come to me recently is how's the situation over in Japan, considering that 90% of the oil reserves and the oil that's used in Japan is imported from Iran, and currently, as of March 2026, there's embargo, or should we say a blockade, of the ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz, which is a thin, in some parts just 3 kilometers wide, narrow stretch of water where all the oil and gas from the Middle East is exported through. And as Iran is under attack from America currently, they are trying to prevent ships from passing through to cause maximum disruption to the global economy, to try and force the Americans and the Israelis to finish their attacks on them. So regardless of which side of this philosophical and political divide that you lay, obviously it has real-world implications for everybody. In Japan, we've seen price of gasoline at the pump, at the station, jumping from about 152 yen to the gallon, which is, or to the litre, I should say, with metric over here, jump up to about 180 to the litre at the first week of the conflict. I won't say war as such, because it is kind of just a conflict at the moment. Thankfully, it hasn't scaled up into a full-blown war involving multiple nations. But let's hope this can, for the human tragedy side, this can finish rather quickly. But the impact on the average Japanese person seems to be one of concern around petrol. Some of the headlines apparently have been regarding toilet paper rather than petrol at the station. They seem to be more concerned that we may have a repeat occurrence during the COVID pandemic. They quite infamously ran out of toilet paper supplies, and we saw convenience stores, which are legally required to have toilets in most prefectures for customers to use, started chaining up their toilet paper to prevent people from stealing it during the shortage. So Japanese, being a deeply modest and conservative people on the whole, obviously this is one of the things that concerns them a lot. Rather than the price of gasoline increasing, it's the ability to get their necessary supplies for their bathrooms and toilets. Bless them. Obviously, we would find that a little bit surprising in the West, being as all the toilet facilities over here come with auto bidet facilities, so they wash your backside for you after you've been. Many people would find that enough, but I guess they like the choice over here. It's kind of telling, though, that the problems that Japanese people find globally can be really summed up by their impact on the Japanese people and their psyche, the troubles that they will find in relatively small, minor issues, rather than reflecting on the impact on their industry, for example. Excuse me. As 90% of their power supply may be seriously impacted by this conflict, you would imagine people would be thinking about their manufacturing as a huge exports-driven economy. I mean, wherever you are in the world, if you think about the products that come from Japan, Panasonic, Toshiba, Sony, Toyota Motor Cars, Honda, Subaru, these are all brands that rely on heavy manufacturing. So if there is a problem getting power to these factories, it will devastate the Japanese economy. Recently, over the past couple of years, we've seen a surge in economy in Japan, but it's kind of a false surge, because it's actually the weakening of the yen. The government continues to print money in the form of stimulus payments, as they seem to be dry on ideas to try and stimulate natural growth. So they're just kind of giving out popularity checks where they pump cash into people's bank accounts. And rightly or wrongly, the offshoot of this seems to be that people buy cheaper stuff online, which is imported from other countries, so that money goes to other countries anyway. But it does dilute the power of the yen considerably, and with the 3-decade-long stagflation, it means that prices aren't really going up, but they're printing more cash, so it's kind of driving the economy forwards. However, if they stop printing cash and stop watering down people's savings as an offshoot of that, then the economy won't look so good on paper. And if you add to that the effect of the oil blockades going on, then that's really going to affect a lot of people's businesses. And then, of course, we will lose the tax income from those, and it could have a real effect on people's pensions. And healthcare services over here are paid kind of 70% through employees' insurance, and the other 30% to be covered either by additional personal individual insurance plans or by cash out of their savings accounts. But those premiums may rise up to cover that shortfall. Of course, insurance companies don't like to make any kind of loss, so they would probably look to cover their exposure on the markets by making an increase in the requirements for payments against any losses that they incur. So things will get more expensive. We will start to see inflation going up due to this. But yeah, as far as the average person in Japan is concerned, the talk of the town appears to be the toilet paper situation. I think most people in Japan are pretty well covered when it comes to having funding for a rainy day. A lot of people, the culture has always been that housewives will stash cash under the mattress, if you like, with low incidence of burglary. A lot of people feel that there's no point in putting money into banks because the interest rates over here have been close to zero for a long time. The government is now finally starting to raise it, but they have to do it very cautiously because, of course, any raises in interest will make the debt that the government owes almost definitely unserviceable. They're bound by the same interest rates, of course, and Japan has the largest debt per person in the entire developed world. It's huge, no doubt about it. They're banking on the fact that because they can make a lot of money, they'll be able to service that debt. And, well, I don't know if they have plans in reality to pay it off on what most governments don't, to be fair. But certainly servicing the debt is incredibly important to accessing funds on the world stage for development. But the other thing, of course, is the arbitrage that's gone on in the markets. And what I mean by that is that when you have almost zero interest rates in Japan, people borrow from Japan, not having to pay back anything on that initial capital, and then they go and invest it in international markets like government bonds in America. Government bonds in America, which pay considerably higher interest rates of 6 or 7%. And so what you have is a weakening of the yen and a strengthening of the dollar. But the Trump administration wants to reverse that. There were talks of a Mar-a-Lago Accord, which would have been proposals to weaken the US dollar. And certainly Trump's putting pressure on the Federal Reserve, or the Bank of America, if you like, to slash interest rates to get their economy moving, to get their factories borrowing cheaper than what it is at the moment. And that would maybe see a reversal in the Japanese yen's fortunes. We may even see the yen. At the moment, it's about 211 to the pound, and it may, because I'm British, I speak in pounds, but 211 to the pound, it may even dip down as back to kind of what I would consider normal levels, anywhere between 120 to 150 to the pound. So we've all got our fingers crossed for that reversal, because as international people, of course, it's far better for us if the yen carries strength abroad. Trips home to see families are quite costly at the moment. Anything that is bought from abroad, say, Apple equipment, becomes rather costly. So it would be nice to see the yen strengthen a little in that way. But also I think that they may be affected, of course, by what's happening in the Middle East. Everything will be. It goes quite deep, even if there's no direct correlation towards the price of oil, the scarcity of oil, and the prices in the country. You can bet industries that require other industries to function will be handed those costs, and then everything will become affected in the end. Japan is full of very extremely focused people who work very hard and perform very well at school, and they light up the culture, community, and economy with their dedication to hard work. And one of the reasons why I didn't leave Japan a few years ago, when I found that the Japanese yen was significantly weakening and making us real world quite poor, is that the trust and faith I have in the Japanese people to dig themselves out of these problems. I've never met a more tenacious and dedicated group of people, generally speaking, in my life. So I have great faith in the people, even if the economy and the politicians are not showing the kind of signs that I would like to see, would hope to see. I believe that they will dig themselves out of this problem, and long term, this oil conflict going on at the moment will resolve itself, and we shall see, hopefully, some kind of turnaround and opening up of the channels that use oil until we can switch to renewables. That would be lovely. I have some solar panels at my house to make the better use of our energy that is gifted to us from the sun. However, and it is quite strong sun in Japan, until that happens, we're stuck with oil and gas for the time being. A lot of the nuclear power stations were switched off during the Fukushima earthquake from 2011, when the Fukushima Daiichi power plant was hit by a tsunami, and that was actually this area where I'm from. So they closed down all the nuclear reactors across the country for safety checks and inspections, and even today they're still kind of cautiously and tentatively opening up some on schedule, and others are continuing to have problems, so they will be opened as time goes by. We look to increase it. I think the share of nuclear power in Japan at the moment is about 6% of its total energy output, so it's not really a sustainable answer. And until they find better, cleaner ways to harness nuclear energy, then I don't think maybe 15 years into the future they will have worked on the nuclear fusion fission style reactors, where they actually combine atoms rather than split them to create massive amounts of energy. Far cleaner process as well. So until that happens, we're kind of stuck with the one that creates all the nuclear waste that gets buried in the ground. So, there's no easy answer for the energy requirements. Most Japanese houses are not built to have huge energy draws as well. I mean, my house is a fairly modern build. It's a 2006 build, but there are no power sockets into the garden at all, so there's nothing electrical can run in the garden unless I use solar power with a portable battery pack. Inside the house is a very low voltage. If you switch the toaster and the kettle on at the same time, the circuit breaker flicks, and we've spoken to electricians and they've said they're designed like that so that you don't use too much energy, and if you require additional energy, we'll have to rewire the entire house and use a higher capacity circuit breaker on there to allow higher voltage and higher energy draws. But it's a good way for us to manage that, to be fair, so we've left it as is for now. There's a lack of power sockets and outlets around our house, something that drives me crazy consistently. Kind of about 60% of our main living dining room area doesn't have power sockets, so we have extension cables running everywhere. But yeah, I suppose it depends on what we want to use. Most of them is just for having Alexa devices around the house, so that is something that it keeps everybody very modest in their use of power in Japan. But it is costly. Coming from the UK, it's about half the price for gasoline as the UK is. They're about 380 yen to the litre, whereas we're about we were 150 yen to the litre. We've now gone up to about 180. I fill up at Costco because it's the cheapest pump in place around here. And they have instructions in English as well, which is very convenient when you're dealing with 50,000 kanji. Reading which one is regular gasoline is can be quite challenging. Most of the time they use katakana, which is easy to read, but yeah, there are a few times when they hit me with some unknown kanji, and it'll take a roll of dice to fill up my car. But I get better at reading kanji soon, so hopefully that won't be too much of an issue. But Costco always brings something enjoyable to see and eat, and it's a taste of back home, so I don't mind filling up my car there. That's nice. The car's quite a big guzzler. It's quite thirsty. It's a little bit older now, but it's a 2-litre injection, so we live on the top of a hill after the tsunami. We thought it would be comfortable to live at the top of a hill, but it does mean that you have to put a little extra gas in the tank to drive up that hill every day from work. So we'll definitely be impacted if the price of gasoline continues to rise. However, we've got to keep it in perspective here. As a percentage of our monthly salary coming through, for example, it's not going to make a crazy impact on us. And we do live quite frugally. We don't spend like crazy or anything. We don't have massive outgoings or huge debt, fortunately. We've been quite good at managing that, and I think most Japanese people live in a similar kind of way. 20 years ago, it used to be very different when excuse me, people were always buying designer clothes, designer bags, and very fashionable culture. But unfortunately, Japan, the youth especially, have moved away to that, and it's kind of a counterculture now where they don't want to buy designer brand goods. They don't see any necessity in that. And there's a very famous shop here called Muji. I say famous now, I can't remember the name of it. Mejirushi, and that translates to the no brand shop. So they don't have any branding on their clothing or stationery or upholstery or anything like that. So it's kind of it does very good business. It's kind of a statement there about how we don't need expensive things to have good quality. T-shirt I'm wearing here, anybody who's ever been to Japan will instantly recognize the style as a Uniqlo. You can find these stores in America and the UK as well. Uniqlo, I've always said Uniqlo, they kind of look sometimes a bit young, a bit hideous, but the quality is so good. They never degrade in quality, and you can put them with weights tied around them in a washing machine and spin dry, and it won't do anything to them. They're almost indestructible. So these types of things now, people are becoming more smarter about. They spend their money more wisely in Japan, I think, and they can understand the benefits of not throwing your money away in a permanent cycle of upgrading to the latest iPhone or fashion accessory every year. They're not buying new cars every year. Some might say it's a little detrimental to the economy. However, it does mean that people are not going to be dependent on tax handouts from the government all the time. So if we're able to save a little and invest in the economy, then the same impact will be there. I know Japan is trying to reach into international markets, as I said about Uniqlo. If they can sell their excellent produce abroad, then it means that we're not going to face so many difficulties in the economy in Japan, especially if people investing in stocks and shares. As the interest rates rise, then they should be more comfortable in their retirement. It's often been said that we're going down to about 20% of what the retirement was just a few decades ago, the retirement benefit there. So retirement now is something that government is encouraging us to take a more active stance in. Just the other day, I was reading a news article. I thought about doing it for the channel, the Asian News Review. It was about being NISA poor. NISA poor is a new buzz term. It means that NISA is like what you would call a 401k account, type of pension savings fund. Not really a 401k, but like that, something where you put a percentage of your salary into each month. It's tax-free dividend, tax-free capital gains, I should say, and you can use that as an additional pension payment when you're older. You can withdraw at any time. There's another scheme called IDECO, which you can't access until you're about 65 years old, but that works an additional pension payment as well. And both of those are tax-free, and they don't tax that proportion of your salary, and they won't tax it when it comes out the other side as gains as well. So they're very popular, and the government's really pushing these to people because they know that the pensions are going to be incredibly weak in the future. The golden generation of having huge pensions to retire on are gone now. So, people are being forced to think more carefully about their purchasing, and a lot of people are maxing out their NISA and IDECO allowance so that they can make a comfortable retirement. Well, this really does depend on how inflation goes over the next 20 or so years. If it's going to jump up hugely, we also hope that interest rates will jump up on a similar level and the economy keeps rolling so that we can invest our money and have that grow in line with inflation and try and beat inflation. Because if we're continuing in this vein to hide our cash, and the price of oil and everything affected by that is going up and inflation is increasing, then things are going to be very tough for everybody living in Japan in the future. But as I say, all in all, it comes down to, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. Global events, national events, national trends, we just don't know. I put my faith in the Japanese people, as I say. I believe that they're very special and unique in their way of going at a problem and working for a solution. And I don't believe they will let Japan fall too far behind. I know they're slow on the uptake with things sometimes because they're very risk averse. They don't want to try new things. And it can seem frustrating to people who live here and come from other cultures. And why don't you take a step ahead? But, it allows for safety and comfort for people. If your expectations aren't to live like a king, then you can be sure that there's a safety net underneath each citizen of Japan, and hopefully we see that maintained and the solutions will come. So yeah, bullet points. Don't panic too much about what's going on around the world. Let's see if we can find local impact areas, solutions that will help our communities and our groups, and then we'll keep our fingers crossed that all these conflicts going on at the moment can find a peaceful and calm resolution quickly, and that everybody enjoys a bit more freedom and a bit more security. That would be wonderful. So let's keep our fingers crossed. 2026. Let's go. This was Asian News Review Extra, weekend edition. I hope you guys are having a great time wherever you are and enjoying some early sunshine if you're in the northern hemisphere like us here in Japan, or getting down to a ski season somewhere or a ski slope to enjoy some winter time if you're in the southern half. Enjoy the small things. Give your families a hug and say hello to your friends. And don't be dialed into the news too long. Coming from a news station, that's good advice. Get outside in the sunshine and enjoy. Okay, that'll be it for today. If you enjoyed this, then let me know in the comments. So I might do some more walking around the block or taking a drive, and you can see a bit more of the real side of Japan rather than the studio upstairs. But have a great weekend, everybody. This is Asian News Review. Like and subscribe, help us out, and I'll see you on the next one. Au revoir.